My cherry berry pie with frozen berries recipe is going to be amazing. This pie filling is going to have cherries, blueberries, blackberries, strawberries, and raspberries, so it's going to be absolutely full of flavor. And because I'm using frozen berries, this pie recipe is super easy. Let's go over the ingredients. For this pie, I'm going to use a total of 3 cups or 24 ounces, 680 grams of fruit. And to get there, I'm going to use one 12-ounce bag of frozen dark sweet cherries and one 12-ounce bag of frozen mixed berries. As you can see, the mixed berries have a pretty good assortment. On the bag, it says in this order: strawberries, blueberries, blackberries, and raspberries. So depending on the brand, you might have more blueberries than strawberries or something like that, but this is what I'm using. Of course, we're gonna have to sweeten this up. I'm going to use 1/3 of a cup plus 2 tablespoons of white sugar, 100 grams, plus 1/3 of a cup plus 2 tablespoons of light brown sugar, 210 grams. I know that's an odd measurement, but I think that that's just right. We're gonna have to thicken up the pie filling, so I have 8 tablespoons or 80 grams of cornstarch. I know that sounds like a lot, and it is a lot, but frozen berries or frozen fruit in general, once it thaws, it releases a lot of juice, as you can see here. So you need a lot of thickener. I'm also going to need 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt, 1/2 of a teaspoon of almond extract to help bring out the cherry flavor. I may or may not add 1 tablespoon of lemon juice, so I have that here. I'm going to need 2 9-inch pie crusts. One is already in the pie plate, the other is in the refrigerator. And when it's time to put the pie into the oven, I'm going to sprinkle 1 tablespoon of light brown sugar and 1 tablespoon of white sugar on top. Give it extra sweetness and crunch. Like I said, this cherry berry pie with frozen berries recipe is super easy. The fruit is already thawed, so all I have to do to make the cherry berry filling is literally just mix everything together. So here are my dark sweet cherries, my mixed berries. One thing I wanted to mention is that I thawed my fruit in the microwave. I think that's a quick and easy way of doing it. Just make sure that your berries are not hot, because cornstarch does not like to be added to hot liquids. If the berries are hot from the microwave, here's the sugar, then the cornstarch would probably clump up and ruin the filling. There we go. Sugars. I'm gonna stir this in, then I'll add the cornstarch. The cornstarch. I'm not sure if it needs lemon juice. I'm gonna think about it as I stir in this cornstarch, and then I will bring you back. I'm not gonna add the lemon juice. I don't think it needs it. But one thing I wanted to point out is that these strawberries, I'm just gonna break them up a little bit because I want to more evenly distribute them in the filling. I have already par-baked my bottom crust. I actually par-baked it before mixing the filling. Or you could just mix the filling, then par-bake the crust while this sits aside for a minute. It won't hurt it. Now I'm going to pour in the filling, smooth it out the way that I want it, and then I'm going to put on the top crust. I even out the filling, so now it's time to put on the top crust. I'm using homemade crust like I always do, but of course you can use store-bought. The easiest way to put a top crust on a double crusted fruit pie is this. If you buy it, it's probably going to be rolled out between 2 pieces of wax paper. I always roll my pie crust out between 2 pieces of wax paper. So all you do is you just roll it out like this, and then grab it by the pie crust, grab it by the wax paper, remove the piece you don't need, turn it upside down like this, and just simply put it on top of the pie. Try to center it as much as possible. If you need to move it around a little bit, move it around now. Okay, that's good. And then just peel off the wax paper and the crust is on. I'm going to make sure that it is firmly on, that there's not a lot of air underneath it. So just going to push it in a little bit to make sure no air pockets. Then I'm going to take my knife, I'm going to go around and cut off the excess crust. And what I mean by excess crust is that if there's any hanging over the rim of the pie plate, I'm going to cut that off. I am leaving a little bit of crust because I do want to go around and crimp the edges a little bit. So you do need a little bit that hangs over, but not a lot. As I'm doing this, I'm going to start preheating my oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. I finished cutting off the excess crust. If you feel like you're missing a little bit of crust, like over here, just take some that you cut off and put it where you are lacking. Not a big deal. Now it's time to crimp the edges. So like I said, you want to have a little bit of crust hanging over here, and all I'm going to do is just use my fingers to push in a little bit that's hanging over so that I can make a nice edge like this. Not only is this decorative, but it's also going to help seal the pie. Now that the edges are crimped, it's time to cut some steam vents. You don't have to be as exact as I am, but I always like to use a ruler to find the center of the pie and then cut a hole. I then use the ruler to cut more slits in the pie, enough to make 8 slices. The slits don't have to be very big, just maybe an inch long. All they're there for is to help the steam inside the pie to escape. I also use them as a guide when I'm slicing the pie, so that's why I like to use a ruler and keep them about the same distance apart, but like I said, that is not necessary. Honestly, just 4 of these slits should be enough. Now for the final topping. Like I said at the beginning of the video, 1 tablespoon of light brown sugar, 1 tablespoon of white sugar. I'm just going to sprinkle this on top of the pie to give it some extra crunch and extra sweetness. And as always, when you're making a fruit pie, make sure that you bake it on top of a cookie sheet or a pizza pan like I am, because you don't want it to boil over and get onto the bottom of your oven. I just pulled my cherry berry pie out of the oven. It was in at 350 Fahrenheit, uncovered, for 50 minutes. 50. The crust on this pie was perfectly golden brown, so I couldn't wait to try it. And honestly, this cherry berry pie with frozen berries recipe was a huge success. Honestly, it was one of the best pies that I've made in a very long time. All the flavors were perfectly balanced. It had the perfect combination of cherry and berry flavor. The amount of sweetness was just right as well. I know I used an odd measurement of sugar, but it was just what this pie needed. It was at that perfect level of sweetness where you could definitely eat this pie on its own, or you could also eat it with some vanilla ice cream and it would be perfect either way. What I think made this cherry berry pie so good was using half white and half light brown sugar. The little bit of molasses in the brown sugar giving this pie a depth of flavor that using all white sugar would not. The almond extract was another key ingredient because it really brought out the cherry flavor. I know that at the beginning of the video I said I was thinking about adding some lemon juice and then I decided not to. I still think this pie did not need any lemon juice. It was absolutely perfect the way it was. I also wanted to say that I thought the ratio of berries in the mixed berries was absolutely perfect. I've made a raspberry pie here on my channel before, and if you remember, I didn't really like it, so I was glad that raspberries were listed last. In regards to the frozen berries, I think that this pie was mostly strawberry and blueberry. So if you're looking for a bag of frozen berries, look for a brand that has strawberries and blueberries listed first, and then, at least in my opinion, then blackberries and raspberries listed last. I know I used dark sweet cherries in this pie, not tart cherries like most people do when making cherry pie, but honestly, I actually think that dark sweet cherries are better in pies than tart cherries are. I think you could use tart cherries if you wanted, but you would definitely need to increase the sugar a bit, especially the brown sugar, to give this really that depth of flavor that you would get if you use dark sweet cherries. I know I'm raving about this pie, but I wasn't the only one. I shared this pie with some people, and everyone thought that it was absolutely incredible. One of my friends gave this pie to her fiance, and when he tried it, he asked her, "Who made this?" And another one of my friends said that this was definitely one of the best pies he had ever had in his entire life, and that he would pay $50 for a 9-inch cherry berry pie. Like I keep saying over and over again, this cherry berry pie with frozen berries recipe was absolutely fantastic. And I'm not sure why, but for this pie, I thought it tasted even better with some vanilla ice cream. Usually, I think my pies are better plain, but for some reason, the ice cream just took this to the next level. My only critique of this pie is that I had to use a good amount of cornstarch in order to thicken the filling. Although I couldn't taste it, and no one that I shared the pie with commented on it, there were some places at the bottom of the pie where it seemed like the cornstarch collected. Here's a close-up so that you can see what I'm talking about along the bottom of this slice of the pie. Like I said, that didn't happen everywhere, and even where it did happen, I didn't notice, no one else noticed. I think it has something to do with the cherries because when I made a dark sweet cherry pie, the same thing happened. I might have to experiment with other pie thickeners, but using 6 or 7 tablespoons would solve the problem, I think. Your pie would not cut as nicely as mine did, but it would still be good. This cherry berry pie with frozen berries would be the perfect summer dessert, so I hope you give this a try. As always, thanks for watching. See you next time.